welcome to Stingray Tom's Florida and another dip into the archive. I recently did a video on the city of Stuart's most unusual tourist attraction, Confusion Corner, Florida's craziest intersection. That was a fun video to put together and shared a side of Stuart's history that's not well known outside that area. For today's video, I'm back in the area, this time on Hutchinson Island near the Atlantic Ocean, for a look at the area's largest museum, known as the Elliott. Opened in 1961, it's a museum with a proud heritage that covers the history of Stuart and Martin County, as well as some of the most iconic parts of Americana. Now I'm going to talk about one specific part of the Elliott, but they have a number of different and interesting collections, some of which I'll talk about one of these days. They have a unique baseball collection that includes signatures of every member of the Baseball Hall of Fame elected before 1994. There's also over 250 autographed baseballs and more than 600 autographed baseball cards, many of them going back to the earliest days of the national pastime. There's a look at early aviation with a local connection. An accurate reconstruction of a seaplane invented by Sewell's Point resident Hugh Willoughby in 1910. There's a fascinating model of a circus, hand-built by Bob Wyatt in the 1950s, artifacts from the early days of Martin County, and a look at the inventive spirit of Sterling Elliott. The Elliott Museum was created by Harmon, the son of Sterling, to celebrate his father's work and create a home for local culture and education. The biggest collection, however, at least by sheer mass, is the Elliott's vehicles. The museum has nearly 100 cars and trucks, 10 motorcycles, and 5 boats. The largest segment of the collection is that of the 48 Ford Model A and AAs that were donated by Elliott Donnelly. These Fords were all produced between 1927 and 1932 and were successors to Ford's Model T. By the way, the difference between Model A's and Model AAs simply had to do with the frame of the vehicle. The AA model was the heavy-duty version, used for beefier truck bodies. Both models used the same engine and transmission, producing just 40 horsepower. The Elliott's collection is significant as a record to just how versatile the Ford Model A platform was, as we can see by this list of types which can be seen on display. But I'm not going to talk about the vehicles in the collection. For today we'll look at how many of the cars are displayed. Auto museums always have an issue when it comes to displaying their vehicles. If you estimate that the average car, along with 2 feet of space to the next car, takes up about 150 square feet or 14 square meters, a collection of 100 cars would need nearly half an acre of space, 15,000 square feet or 1,450 square meters, assuming you provide a few aisles for your visitors. So bring on the Elliott's remarkable car racking system. The staff refer to it as the Boomerang. It's an apt moniker, considering that with the touch of a few buttons, the system moves a car out of its bay and to the display area and then takes it back. But there's another reason why it's a boomerang. That just happens to be the name of the company that designed and built it. I'll get into the details in a bit, but I wanted to tell you about how it helps the space issue. The racking system holds 55 cars and takes up about 4,300 square feet or 400 square meters. Honestly, that's not a big savings in floor space, but remember, it's 3 levels high and each of those levels is about 8 feet. For a house, that's a typical ceiling height, but it'd feel claustrophobic if a museum ceiling was that low. The Elliott in general has 2 floors, but there's 3 levels of cars. They've effectively reduced the space needed by 1/3 compared to each level being at 12 feet high. Plus, each car can be seen whenever a visitor requests it, and they're all safely behind glass in a room that's cleaner and better climate controlled than the rest of the museum. When I first saw the Boomerang system, I immediately thought about other vehicle moving machines, especially one that was a popular ride at the 1964 New York World's Fair. And yeah, these are the thoughts of a person who has studied tourist attractions for most of their life. The ride was the Magic Skyway, a major part of the Ford Motor Pavilion, one of the many transportation pavilions of the fair. The Magic Skyway used actual Ford cars. Many people seem to think that they only used Mustangs since it was first released in 1964, but it used several convertibles: Mustangs, Galaxies, Falcons, and Lincoln Continentals. By the way, Mustang is Ford's oldest car model name that's currently in use. It's been in production for 60 years. The ride was developed by Walt Disney's company, WED Enterprises, which today is called Walt Disney Imagineering. If you're not that familiar with Disney speak, the WED in WED Enterprises stands for Walter Elias Disney, and the term Imagineering is a Disney-invented word that combines imagine and engineering. Walt Disney's companies designed a number of other attractions too, which you can learn about in this video. The Magic Skyway used real cars as ride vehicles, allowing people to view the 12-minute-long attraction that's commonly termed a dark ride. The ride is considered the grandfather of two of Disney's ride platforms, including the Wedway People Mover. That's certainly the Skyway's visual successor. It's even on an elevated platform that runs outside and inside the buildings of Tomorrowland. The other ride platform is somewhat of a generic system, similar to how the Boomerang was supposed to be, adaptable to any number of situations. It's called an OmniMover, yet another Disney term. The setup is a continuous track with ride vehicles spaced at regular intervals. This is obviously different from roller coasters as well as other dark ride systems. Like the Magic Skyway, the OmniMover cars run through the attraction regardless of whether there's passengers in them or not. The first use of the system was an Adventure Through Inner Space, which opened in Disneyland in 1967. While it was based on the Skyway system, there were a couple major improvements. The first being that you can fit many more vehicles and therefore guests on the ride. This increases what is known as throughput, a term that was not coined by Disney but is important in the theme park industry. Throughput is the number of guests an attraction can handle, usually measured by hour. It's often called the Theoretical Hourly Ride Capacity, or THRC. OmniMovers happen to be champions of THRC. For example, at best, Disney's Dumbo ride can handle 1,000 people per hour, while the Haunted Mansion can do up to 3,200. OmniMover's only real competition at Disney parks are the boat rides, with It's a Small World at nearly 3,000, due to the large capacity boats and the fact that everyone turns into little kids in that attraction. The other advantage over the Skyway is that OmniMovers rotate to have their passengers face any direction needed. This provides a number of benefits. It directs passengers as to where to look. It hides areas of the ride that aren't themed since the cars usually have high backs. It likewise allows for projectors and other devices that create visual effects to be hidden, and finally it makes it safe for the cars to take steep inclines by rotating until the passengers are comfortably reclined with their backs against the rear of the car. One other interesting element of OmniMovers was carried over from the Magic Skyway. Each of the Ford cars had an 8-track player in the trunk, which provided the narration for the ride. It was available in a few languages that could be selected by pushing buttons on the car's radio. The design of the OmniMovers includes stereo speakers, though the system is more advanced than the 8-track. By the way, the cars on the Magic Skyway are thought to be the first cars featuring 8 tracks, for it was only at the end of the World's Fair in September 1965 that cars available to the public would offer them. And yes, they were Fords. I hope that look at similar ride platforms wasn't too much of a departure, but this is a tourism channel and technically one could ride the Boomerang system. But let's take a closer look at that system. Firstly, it might be better named the Boomerang Robotic Valet, as that's the name for the system developed to be used in parking garages. The Elliott's system has some differences, but it's substantially the same. As shown here, it's an automated parking garage that acts as a car vending machine, though one that also places the item back where it came from. Try that with a hot coffee vending machine. The regular robotic valet system is known as an automated guided vehicle system that uses robots which roll freely in any direction across solid concrete slabs, including underneath parked cars. Cars are parked onto trays which a robot lifts without touching the car. The robot moves underneath cars from any side, transports them in any direction, and even rotates them without a turntable. The Elliott's installation differs from this in that the cars are transported through a racking system that's not really a robot. The transport platform moves along tracks that allow it to search out a car and transport it from its regular parking bay to the display area. That display area includes a turntable. The system picks up the platform. Here it's galvanized steel. The Boomerang functions by a combination of hydraulics and actuators and is powered by a battery system. The system is automatic with the operator using a touch screen. At the same time, there are 2 video screens connected with the system. One shows the rack retrieving a car while the other displays information about the selection. The Boomerang holds up to 55 cars, roughly half of the museum's collection, and can handle vehicles up to 6,000 pounds or 2,700 kilograms. That's plenty strong enough for most of the classic cars in the Elliott's collection. The system isn't particularly fast, but there's little interest in just how many cars that can be displayed in an hour. The turntable takes about a minute to spin 360 degrees. The Boomerang was the first such system installed in a museum. 3 others were later installed in other places, but the Elliott's is thought to be the only one still operating. It was installed in 2012 and still works well today. Founded in 2006, Boomerang Systems was located in Florham Park, New Jersey, though its working facilities were in Logan, Utah. It was there that the racking systems were designed and built. Its only business was the robotic valet and similar systems. Husband and wife, Stan and Sandy Checketts, began the company some years after founding another company with quite a different product line. It was in 1994 that the couple founded S&S Sports, which made bungee jumping and trampoline equipment as well as air-powered amusement rides. S&S Sports continues to make amusement rides today as a subsidiary of the Japanese company Stingray Technologies. The Checketts are no longer involved in the company, and Stan died in 2022. Today, S&S Stingray Technologies is known for its pneumatically powered amusement rides and roller coaster designs. There are several of their rides in Florida parks, including 3 versions of the Screaming Swing ride, which is a pneumatically powered pendulum attraction. Both Fun Spot America locations in Kissimmee and Orlando have one and call it Hot Shot. Busch Gardens Tampa installed one in 2023 themed as the Serengeti Flyer. It's 135 feet or 41 meters tall, while those at Fun Spot are about 100 feet or 30 meters tall. Then there's Dr. Doom's Fearfall at Universal Resorts Islands of Adventure. It's a drop tower attraction that uses compressed air to rapidly propel riders up the tower, then gently lower them with a series of air cushion bounces. It's 185 feet or 56 meters in height, and it's the tallest attraction at Universal. Let's get back to the Elliott one final time. As I mentioned, Boomerang Systems was founded in 2006 and the Elliott's Boomerang was installed in 2012. Sadly, the company would soon show financial issues and in 2015 filed for bankruptcy protection. As of 2024, I've been unable to verify if the company is still in business, but its website no longer exists, the phone numbers are disconnected, and I've not been able to find any contact info. Their facility in Utah has lost its name and is now the home of Waste Management Incorporated. This leaves the Elliott's in a bit of a quandary. They essentially have a highly valuable, one-of-a-kind system that cannot be maintained by the original company. It's only 12 years old, so let's hope basic maintenance will be all that's needed for the foreseeable future. We'll have to be patient, but in the meantime, watching the Boomerang and its collection of vehicles is a big highlight of a visit to Stuart's Elliott Museum. And you don't have to be a big fan of classic cars to appreciate it. Thank you for watching another of my videos. I hope you enjoyed it. If you learned something, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to learn more about Florida's tourism history. Stingray Tom's Florida, traveling through time around the Sunshine State.